UN agency hit with fraud and corruption allegations at climate projects. The United Nations Development Programme is facing several allegations of fraud and corruption linked to the multi-billion-dollar Global Environment Facility, according to documents seen by the Financial Times. A copy of the draft report by UNDP's Office of Audit and Investigations dated November 2020 described the financial misstatements worth millions of dollars across UNDP's portfolio of GEF-funded projects around the world. The report highlighted the problems including signs of fraudulent activities at two country offices and suspicions of collusion among the various project managers at another, without naming the countries. Issues identified by the audit could seriously compromise the achievement of the objectives of the audited entity. The GEF was set up in 1991 as part of the World Bank to help fight environmental challenges such as deforestation, species conservation, and pollution. It has since split out to become an independent organization and disbursed more than $21 billion in 170 countries, including $7 billion in projects managed by the UNDP. The audit of the UNDP's GEF-funded projects, which covers 2018 and 2019, is the first review of its kind since 2013, comes against a backdrop of rising concern from some donor countries over management and oversight issues at the UNDP. An investigation by Foreign Policy in 2019 published whistleblower accounts alleging the misappropriation of millions of dollars at UNDP-run GEF project in Russia. 12 donor countries, including the US, France, Australia, and Japan, have since sought an independent review of the UNDP's handling of the project, according to a letter seen by the FT. Matters of misconduct and misappropriation of funds continue to obstruct sustainable development across the world, the donors said in March and later to achieve staying the UNDP administrator since 2017. In a written response to the FT, the UNDP said it takes all cases of financial mismanagement and their irregularities extremely seriously, adding that its GEF projects were some of the organization's most closely monitored. The portfolio, the majority of which is implemented by national and subnational institutions, civil society organizations, as well as other UN organizations, is subject to an intricate system of regular reviews, independent assessments, and audits. While there have been allegations of misuse of funds on certain projects, such complaints affected a tiny fraction, 1.4% of the UNDP's GEF-funded portfolio, it added. The GEF did not respond to a request to comment for this article. Other project audits from independent consultants as well as writing companies from current and former UNDP staff, all seen by the FT, suggest that concerns over alleged financial misconduct and poor oversight at the UNDP may be widespread. What happened in Russia is a Russians' problem, but things going wrong are very common, said Frank European environmental expert who has reviewed GEF programs across the world for more than 10 years. An independent review of the GEF-funded UNDP project in Uzbekistan, seen by the FT, warned that financial information provided by the UNDP was not reliable and must be questioned. As a further result, this midterm review is required by UNDP guidelines to refer this project for a further investigation, the draft report said. According to another long-term external consultant to the UNDP, problems raised in project reviews frequently seem to be ignored by senior staff. I don't understand some of the management responses that have been made, said the consultant, who asked not to be named. We have an urgent climate crisis. The claims of misconduct at the UNDP are not the first allegations of impropriety linked to the UN's climate work and represent one of the many challenges facing the UN as it seeks to coordinate a global response to climate change. The UN-backed South Korea-based Green Climate Fund, the world's largest climate finance institution, has faced a recent wave of internal misconduct complaints, including allegations of sexism and harassment in the workplace, the FT reported in August. The words climate and corruption, people see this as two different words, but there is a lot of overlap, said Bruce Obama, the head of climate governance integrity at Transparency International, the global anti-corruption group. Another person familiar with the allegations at the UNDP said there was a history of UNDP internal reviews, avoiding naming names. No one is accountable. No one is responsible. The UNDP lets itself off the hook, the person said, also asking not to be named. These funds are intended for the poorest of the poor. At what point were donors to the GEF decide to suspend funding? Transparency International's Farmer said governance at the GEF had improved in recent years, but noted that the GEF had limited authority over UNDP projects, which are implemented according to UNDP standards. Obama has not seen the audit of the UNDP's GEF project reviewed by the FT and could not comment on its details. When it comes to climate, we need to have much higher standards. If it is a project that is supposed to help an affected population adapt, then this is like penalizing them twice.